Hello, everybody, and welcome to Music Industry Insights Worldwide. Today we have the awesome Emily with us. Hi, Emily, how are you?
Hi, Saskia. I'm so good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much, and thank you for coming along today and your on your weekend, and also sharing your story, your views, and your expertise with us. I really appreciate your time. Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, and what you do?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Emily Dimes. I am a singer-songwriter and a K-pop cover artist and a social media manager. And I've recently started doing K-pop top lining as well, and I make content. So a few different things within the entertainment industry coming together there.
You've got to have so many hats these days, and having different streams and income streams is really, really important. And where are you based at the moment, Emily?
I'm kind of based in between places at the moment, actually. I'm from Suffolk originally, if you've ever heard of Ipswich, um, a little known town. And then I lived in London for about 3 years, and now I'm kind of in between London and Singapore.
Awesome. And how's Singapore treating you? Doing some international traveling and stuff. How are you finding that?
It's been really nice. It's been very eye-opening, being in a completely different place to what I'm used to, but I do really like it here. And the fact that it's like nice and bright and green and not so rainy in January is kind of a plus.
Oh, tell us. Honestly, I'm really jealous. And tell us a little bit more about the K-pop stuff, because that's a massive thing at the moment. How did you get into that, and what kind of drew you to K-pop?
It's a really massive thing, yeah. My journey into K-pop was just because a couple of my friends at school listened to K-pop and they decided to show me and some of their other friends some music videos one morning before school started. And I was kind of intrigued. I'd not really seen anything like that before and didn't think much about it until we watched some more music videos a few months later. And I saw a couple that just really resonated with me. And I was just so astounded that there was a whole industry of music that I'd never seen before. I was already writing songs at that point myself and performing in every choir I could get
Yeah.
myself into. So yeah, I was very interested in like expanding my influences and learning a lot more about a new culture and a new way of doing music. And it just took off from there, really. I made one K-pop cover on my YouTube channel, which was very small at the time. And I thought that I would just have those two friends that got me into it listen to it. And actually, a lot of other people found me through that. And then I just kind of kept doing it.
Oh, that's lovely. And how is Singapore treating you, especially as a woman over there? How do they treat women, and how are you supported in the music industry over there?
To be honest, I'm very new to Singapore, so I don't know how much I can speak to that. But in general, people have been really respectful and welcoming. Anyone I've met who's known people within the music industry has tried to put me in touch with other people in that area. But I think Singapore's music scene is quite small. The benefit is more that it's got a lot of links and travel links, especially to other places like Korea and Japan, and it's quite close to India as well. So there's kind of a lot of ways that you can expand into different areas within that. And I think it's got a very good setup for if there's anywhere you need to be within Singapore, it's quite a small place. So it's kind of quite easy to travel. The transport is good, things like that.
That's really, really good. And did you have a musical education, and how long have you actively been doing this for, Emily?
I did have a musical education actually. Yeah, I when I was in school, I loved singing. I was one of the seven people in my class who all wanted to be a singer when we grew up. I think most of them grew out of it and I didn't.
Yeah.
And actually one day in music class, one of the teachers kind of singled me out and said, "Oh, can you try singing this solo?" And I guess she noticed that I had a talent there that I hadn't quite picked up on yet either, because I was only, I think, 8 or 9.
Oh,
And
that's me.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that moment actually made a massive difference to how I saw music going forward because then I ended up singing a solo in one of our end of year concerts and I actually won a scholarship to receive classical music lessons for a year. Um, thank you. And that was a game changer for me, really. I think I probably wanted to start lessons anyway, but I was more interested in the pop route. And then because of that scholarship, I ended up pursuing both. And I think for like my musical development, that was really, really useful because I learned so much more about technique in a completely other style. And now when I sing, I kind of combine the two.
Yeah. So you've kind of got a business hat on, but you've also got a performance hat on, and combining those together is really, really important, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's very important. A lot of people that I see talking online or even meeting in person often shy away from the business side, but I think that's really the thing that can keep you going, especially as an independent performer or just anyone independent within the music industry. You kind of need to have that business mindset and know where you're going. And I think a lot of people maybe feel overwhelmed by the idea of that, but there's actually so many resources out there, and it can be relatively simple to learn, just to kind of, like you were saying, have a few different income streams and get yourself sorted within wherever you fit within that industry. There's so many gaps, and I think it's just about finding that place where you fit.
And how important was music education to you? Because it sounds like it's been really instrumental in bringing you to where you are right now. And there's been a lot of cuts along the music education, especially in the UK. So do you think we're losing a lot of
Mm.
creativity because we're not supporting talent young enough and they're not getting those skills?
I do have that fear. I
Yeah.
think that it's something that people should prioritize so much more. And I'm kind of surprised that cuts are still going forward like they are, especially after with COVID and everything shutting down, people turned to entertainment. That was the thing that kept everybody going. And I think in that moment, in some way, thankfully, a lot of people had more recognition about the amazing things that entertainment can give us when everything else feels like it's not going well. And I think that's so important. And then we're just way too quick to forget. And I really think that encouraging people not to lose their creative side is just something that should be emphasized all the time. I'm not really sure why that's getting lost.
I know it's a bit of a shame, isn't it? And to be honest with you, I think it's about, understanding that everyone's educational. So some people are creatives and some people are educational, and we need to support everybody to make sure that, they feel included and they feel welcome. So kind of what kind of
Mm,
issues and barriers have you faced accessing music and entertainment, here in the UK and in Singapore?
mm. Well, my journey into it has been a bit strange in a way. I had a very academic background, so I was really fortunate growing up. I had a really good education and everything, but that did mean that I ended up being very academia focused. And my school at the time understood pop music as like 20th century jazz. So it really had no idea what was going on with all that. Like I wasn't from the city or anything. So finding my way into the part of the industry that I was interested in has been quite a kind of curved path. It's definitely not been linear.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't necessarily say that I wouldn't say I was disadvantaged in my journey there because I did have a lot of people, helping me along the way, and I did have a really good backdrop for that, but it was just not in the right area. So it was kind of about trying to figure out where the lines could go if I wasn't in those spaces where I was meeting people. So I think more than it being an education based thing for me, it was just about not being in those areas where pop music or modern music was really happening, and then figuring out, okay, how do I get into these spaces because they're quite gatekept by people who were already within them.
Yes.
So that's been an interesting journey. I think I found a lot of people, especially within the past year, who have been trying to open up that floor and work with new people. And when I found somebody that I like to work with, like I am holding them close to me,
You've got to
you
have.
know. Yeah, you really have got to. And I think actually there are so many people out there who want to work with new people and want to try and open up the music industry and bring more talent in because you get so much more diversity with ideas and there are so many benefits to it. Um, and I guess it's just about finding those spaces. For me, social media has been really important. Like even finding out about opportunities like this and people doing the amazing work like you're doing, and other collaborators and people within K-pop specifically as well. I haven't found so many people in person in the UK, especially in Singapore. There is a bit more of a Korean wave, so it's kind of easier to find people. Yeah.
And how important has it been to network and collaborate? I think you've touched on some of it already, but how important have you found the networking side of this just to get your name out there and meet people?
I think the networking side is completely instrumental.
Yes.
I think that's something that we should definitely not overlook. And until I started meeting other people in the area, I think I underestimated it a bit myself. So I've been doing my own things online and building up a bit of a fan base and just trying to
Well,
create and thank you. And it's been really fun as well because with the online stuff I do, I'm translating K-pop songs into English and trying to make that music maybe a bit more accessible for English speakers and just remind everybody, okay, the music industry is a global industry. We can all appreciate all music,
that's
which is maybe a bit random for me to take on that role as a white person, but I just love all music and I seem to find a niche within that. But I think that just finding the right people in terms of fans, but also in terms of other people to work with is really, really valuable.
yeah.
And having built a bit of an audience online, but not knowing that many people to work with, I think that I reached that point where like my career was very misaligned, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So how have you kind of
Yeah.
that, and what's kind of your thoughts and feelings at the moment around equity, diversity, and inclusion, especially, being in a different country? And do you find yourself welcome? Do you find yourself respected? And do you have much work coming your way and opportunities?
So at the moment, I'm mainly focused on remote work opportunities, especially because it's got a lot more flexibility and I'm moving around quite a bit at the moment. I do feel like I've been very welcomed being here, which has been really lovely. There aren't too many people from the UK around here from what I've seen so far. But I mean, also, we should account for the fact that white privilege is definitely a thing. So I can't speak to other people's experiences. But thankfully, people have been really lovely and wanted to help me feel included. And I think because I'm very interested in understanding the local culture a lot more, people love to share their own culture. Like just recently, I was celebrating Lunar New Year with a friend and her family, and they welcomed me in with open arms. And I tried to learn a few phrases just to show respect and to kind of partake a bit more equally. So, but it's been really lovely. People have been so open and welcoming, and I do think that it would be nice to see that in all areas of the world, in all industries. Obviously, that's quite idealistic, but I think it makes the world of difference when you're coming in as an outsider to feel like people want you there and they're happy to try and bring you into their world.
Yeah, but you're also showing them respect too by learning the language and also translating that back into English. So it's more universal, which is absolutely awesome. So it shows you're going in with a mindset where you respect others, but you also want to help. So you're also solving an issue, right?
I mean, I hope so. That's what I'm trying to do. And thank you. I appreciate you saying that. That's definitely the goal, is just to help it become so much more universal and remind people that especially a barrier like language or culture is often a barrier we set up in our minds. I don't think it's really a real thing, but it becomes real when people reinforce these stereotypes.
Yeah.
Um, but to answer your other question as well about equity, diversity, and inclusion, I mean, I think in terms of the industry as a whole, I think we're moving in the right direction, especially when we see about artists gaining prominence. There's a lot more diversity nowadays, but behind the scenes, I think there's still a long, long way to go. And I guess the only way to properly approach that really is I believe that you can't really change an issue from the outside. You have to be in the game
Yeah.
to make changes and to fix it. And that's why it's so important that people can get those entry level jobs and build their way up, but also people who have the skills to come in at higher levels. I think there's still a lot of probably just prejudice against certain groups of people, or even being a woman in the industry. I found maybe people don't always take me seriously, or they'll want to try out my idea after they've checked that theirs don't work rather than just treating it all equally. There's a lot of kind of very subtle misogyny,
Yeah.
which is really interesting. So we're definitely moving in the right way. I want to believe that, and I do believe that, but there's so much work still to be done, especially in the really subtle forms of discrimination that maybe it's not overt, so it's a bit harder to catch.
Yes, I totally agree with you on that one. And also moving to a different country must have been a struggle for you. How are you finding that? That must have been scary.
Honestly, it's been really scary, and in a way, there's been no reason for me to be scared. I'm in a very lucky position. I mean, I actually moved out here because my fiance lives in Singapore. He's from
Oh,
here,
good.
so I've come out to stay with him. So I have a really good network. He's there
Yeah.
to support me, and I've been able to meet some of his friends. So I've not come in completely blind, but it's just so out of my comfort zone, and I'm so used to being in my comfort zone. I do think that growth always begins at the edge of your comfort zone, and it was important for me to make a move and do something for myself. But it's just everything that I didn't even think about is slightly different, not in a bad way, but it's just an adjustment. And I think that takes a lot more energy out of you than maybe you realize. And maybe some people are a bit better at adjusting quickly. I think it's just taking me a bit of time to kind of make that mental switch.
Done for you and for taking that massive step, because that's a big step to take and you're doing it really well. So my hat's off to you.
Oh, thank you.
It's really inspirational. And what would you like to see improve in the next couple of years around equity, diversity, inclusion? What could we do more of? Or what could we do better?
I think that just bringing in people from different backgrounds and different educational levels, different levels of experience, and recognizing that somebody's attitude is something that can't be changed. Somebody's experience and skill set can always be developed. I
Yeah,
feel like if we look for more of a, I don't want to say personality based thing, but like an affinity to being able to learn and being encouraged in those environments to kind of step into those places is really, really important in the hiring process and just in general, trying to make sure that our whole industry will be more diverse and we'll get to see so many things from other types of people, like different types of content, different marketing styles, new styles of A&R, whatever it is. If
Yeah,
we bring in more people, I think creativity thrives on diversity. And I would just love to see that expand outwards. And also within music education, I do think that it's really important to catch people young and make sure they understand that their creativity can and should be harnessed and to try and give people the means to do that. And obviously, that's easier said than done, but there are a lot of organizations out there doing great work to try and make music education a lot more accessible. And I think just trying to support that and
yeah,
showing, maybe trying to show parents as well why it's important
yeah,
and that it's not like a money wasting hobby, but it can be really beneficial for mental health and
yeah.
self-expression and things like that. It's helped me massively in that way. Like there's so many songs I've written because I didn't know who to talk to, so I just spoke to the music instead. And I know that sounds cheesy, but that
No,
is how it is, and it's got me through some hard times. So
I
I think you relate.
totally get that. I really do. Thank you so much. And obviously, you've moved around a bit and you've seen different cultures. Do you think age and cultural differences have an impact on what we can achieve in this equality, diversity, inclusion?
Um, what exactly do you mean by that? Like impact how?
Or like, do you think sometimes age, the older people are, sometimes they're not as reluctant to be inclusive and diverse? And do you think certain cultures are not always open to being so inclusive and diverse?
Oh, that's a really good point. I think in terms of age, at least, I don't know if it's so much an age question, but more a mindset issue. And the two of them are often something that come together. When people get a bit older, they can get a bit more stuck in their ways. But I don't think it's that older people are resistant. I think it's that some people get way too into their comfort zone, and also they want the world to maybe still look like a world that benefits them, or maybe they're resistant to change in some way because it's scary. And I
Yeah,
think as long as we have people in power or speaking to those people in power, and they're receptive to listen, which I think any good leader should,
yes,
then there is potential for change.
yeah, 100%. And also, obviously, being in the music industry can be very competitive. Has that made you feel out of place, or has it affected your mental health in any ways?
Actually, I've spoken about this a few times recently about the kind of fallacy of competition within the music industry. I do really believe that there's not it's as competitive as it's as competitive an environment as we make it. So for certain roles, for example, if there's a company that's hiring one person, then obviously there's only one slot there, you're competing for it. But as an artist myself, I really think as long as we're bringing something unique and authentic and genuine to the table, there's always a gap in the market for everybody. Like I personally, I listen to so many artists. If one person comes out and I love what they do, I'm not going to sit there and say, okay, now which other person I listen to am I going to drop? Like I
Right.
just don't think it works like that. And I'm aware some people disagree with me and they believe competition is really important, but I'm not of that opinion. I think if we collaborate with those around us and we share resources, then we're going to help come together and both build ourselves up. As soon as you start fighting with people, especially on your level,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
just stagnating your own growth and their growth as well.
100%, 100%. And how important has collaborations been for you to get to where you are right now?
It's been very important. I think initially I really wanted to know how to do everything on my own. And I still think it's important to build up those skills
Yeah,
and make sure that I can function in a way,
yeah,
without being reliant on other people. But at the same time, even if I can do beginner production and a decent level of mixing,
yeah,
if I do that for my own music, it's not going to sound as good as people who specialize in that.
right.
And if I want to share an audience with someone, then I should definitely talk to new people or sing a song with someone else and we can go on that journey together. And even on the mental health side of things, I think it's really important to have collaborators or team members that you feel you can work with and be open with. I've recently gone freelance just a few months ago, and not being in that office environment where you talk to the same people every day, it can be a bit isolating. And for me, it's been a bit hard to stay self-motivated unless I have those people I'm regularly talking to. And the people I've collaborated with on songwriting projects to pitch and also my own songs have been so instrumental in keeping that momentum going.
100%. Yeah, I think that's really important. Do you use any tools or techniques to kind of ground yourself and to make yourself feel, cool, calm, collective in the industry at the times?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that I use generally, not just industry specific. I have this book actually that I call a happy book. And if I'm feeling a bit like lost, or at one point I was doing it every day, but nowadays it's more like if I kind of need it, then I'll just sit there and I'll write a list of all the positive things, either things I'm looking forward to or things that have happened or things I'm proud of. And even if that comes associated with a negative thought, I deliberately very actively only write the positive thing down to make sure that my mindset is in the right place. Because if I'm not coming into it with an optimistic, positive mindset, I know I won't be bringing my best self or my best work. And so that's really important to me to be able to bring the energy that I want to receive from others as well. And then in general, just trying to stay grounded when people hype you up too much, like talking to friends who in a lovely way don't care that much about what I'm doing. So, I think it's important not to always be surrounded by yes men, but
Yeah.
also to be surrounded by people who can appreciate that you're working hard and respect it, even if it's different, even if they don't really understand. Because the music industry is so different to
Yeah.
any other industry, at least in my experience.
I totally agree with you on that one. And is there any major wins or successes you would like to share with the listeners, and how could they connect with you?
Oh, that's a great one. So some of the things I'm really proud of recently are I was one of the singers at a London K-pop festival last year, and I was able to go and perform some of my translated K-pop pieces for the first ever London K-pop festival. It was in New Malden, and that was amazing because it connected my live performances with the things I've been doing online and allowed me to actually meet a few new songwriters in that space and people to meet and connect with within the UK, which was really nice. And I also was able to be featured in, do you know the Glamour magazine You Sang My Song series?
Yeah,
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 when
love
singers listen to covers. Yeah, so I was in that episode with Tiffany Young, who's a K-pop singer from SNSD,
that.
and she listened to my song, and well, it was her song, but she listened to my version, and that was definitely a highlight for me. But my main highlight musically last year would be the first release of my own music, which is called Till It Fades Away, and it's a song about kind of finding positivity in the darker times and realizing that when you're not sure what your next steps are, that's probably just because something so amazing is in store that you can't possibly picture what that is yet.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
try and hold on to the light inside. And when something just feels like you have no idea where to go, just sit where you are, just
yeah,
stay. It will
yeah,
be fine. Take a deep breath and relax. And
yeah.
that's kind of the message.
I needed to hear that today because I even feel like that.
Oh, bless you.
Good enough? Am I doing the right thing? Is it enough? And I don't.
Mm.
It can be very uncertain, can't it? And sometimes the path, like you said, sometimes you've got to pivot, you've got to change, and it's not always a straightforward path. How have you managed that and dealt with that, uncertainty at times? Because it can be a challenge, can't it?
Oh, it can definitely be a challenge. Yeah, I relate to that very strongly. I write songs about not knowing where I'm going in life, and somehow that leads me down the right path.
All the time. I feel like that all the time, Emily. That's so awesome. And how can the listeners connect with you and find out more about your music? What's coming next?
So I am Emily Dimes. That's like nickels and dimes. D-I-M-E. Sorry, misspelling my name. Dimes on all platforms. So I have a YouTube channel where I do some chatty content and post the K-pop things. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. Feel free to message me there. I've got my music on Spotify. I'm releasing a new single soon, in early March. And I'm really excited to actually connect with more people. Like, please just reach out to me. I will reply. I love to talk to new people. I've also got a mailing list where I write newsletters every week or two about the things that I'm doing, the things I'm learning, the content I'm making, and hopefully ways that it can be relevant to you as well. So there are so many ways to connect. If you're interested, then yeah, please check out what I do and come talk to me.
Of course, listeners, please go and check out Emily's work. I will leave all the links in the description below, and we'll make sure this episode comes out just a few weeks before your single. So it gives you a little bit of
Oh,
pre-promotion
thank you.
single release.
That would be great. Yeah.
An absolute pleasure, and thank you for coming along and sharing your story, your time, your expertise, and just some of you, just bringing what you've got to the table, because I think it's really, really important. Keep doing the amazing work you're doing. And I just want to say thank you ever so much from me and the listeners, because we really support you and we appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I've had an absolutely amazing time being here, and I hope that so many more people are able to learn from you and your other guests.
Likewise, and I'm sure they'll listen and learn from you and feel empowered and inspired. And look, if there's anyone out there that's thinking about going into K-pop, is there any kind of advice that you would give to them on how to get into that or what to do?
I would basically say just go for it, put yourself out there. There's a huge online space for K-pop creators. There's also some amazing people like Alina Smith, who does masterclasses within the K-pop space. I found a lot of collaborators through one of her classes. There's plenty of other creators and people looking for people to work with. So the great thing about K-pop creating is just that people are really enthusiastic within that space, and also there's so much openness within the creative styles. Like you can really be very experimental in the type of music that you make. So if you're looking in the songwriting space, there are opportunities out there for sure. I'm also happy to put you in touch with people if you reach out to me. And if you're looking to do something with else within that space, I think there are a lot of opportunities growing. It's a massively expanding kind of public platform at the moment. So trust in your own instincts, and even if you're not Korean, don't worry, there'll be a space there where you can kind of merge your expertise with that industry in some way.
Some people might be thinking K-pop. What is the difference between K-pop and normal pop? What is the unique things that stand out? What's the differences?
Theoretically, the difference is just that it's based in the Korean market with Korean language, but that's even shifting nowadays. There are global groups who've had the Korean training system, and there are K-pop songs that are in English. At least in my experience, the K-pop music that's created is uh, systematically just very, very differently structured. So instead of like you've got a verse and then maybe a pre-chorus and a chorus, and then the verse repeats itself with variations, and then pre-chorus and chorus, and then a bridge where you change things up in chorus. Like K-pop structure can be kind of whatever you want it to be. There's a new theme every few bars. There's something that can be kind of wacky and experimental about it. There's so many things that you can do within that that are maybe a bit too experimental or abstract for mainstream pop music. I think there's definitely a merging of the two styles at the moment. Like people like Jade and Charlie XCX are bringing a bit more of an experimental high pop feeling to modern pop music, and K-pop is also becoming more westernized. Like all global markets are kind of merging a bit, which is really interesting to watch and be part of. But I think yeah, there's just a lot more kind of diversity in expression from what I see within K-pop. But mainly that's also because there are so many genres that come into that are categorized as K-pop because it's Korean. So I guess take with a pinch of salt. But yeah.
Sharing that. Is there any groups that you're following at the moment or you really are inspired by or you'd like to call out before we go?
Oh, that's a great one. I mean, I love BTS. They're definitely an inspiration in my own sound as well. And people like Red Velvet, who are very kind of creative with their different concepts, and will do a lot of diverse types of music. Yeah, they're really cool. I love Dreamcatcher. They bring a bit of a rocky sound with very sweet voices, which is a really interesting contrast. And honestly, there's so many people I could list. But one of my favorite solo singers as well is called Taeyeon. And she's got an incredible voice and a really diverse discography. And a lot of her music is inspiring my own music that I'm putting out this year. So if you do resonate with those artists as well, then definitely check out what I do and vice versa, because I think you'll love them.
Go and check your music out too. Thank you ever so
Thank
much.
you.
Really appreciate it. Keep awesome and we'll speak again soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.